I am Sanjay Mansukhani from Kolkata, and I am a teacher of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Dear friends, we are covering the chapter on Mukti, on Kaivalya, which means how to obtain liberation from Prakriti, how to obtain liberation for the soul from the mind and body complex. In this particular regard, in the fourth chapter of Kaivalya Pada of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, there is a mention about Prakriti and its effects especially on a new body form, which one takes after transmigration when we move from one body to the other after our death. Then how does Prakriti accommodate us? How does the body grow? So we will look at these point by point here. So there are changes in the bodily forms, and these changes in bodily forms keep on taking place in all the births which we have, and this is filled in by Prakriti. So let us say if one is reborn, then definitely one receives a new body, and there is a process by which this new body evolves, and this process gives a result, a parinama, and this result, this parinama, is described in the second sutra of the fourth chapter of Patanjali. And here he talks of the filling in of Prakriti. Yes, we have seen that due to the subtle causes in our life, due to the subtle body which we had in our earlier life, we acquire a new birth. And the subtle body which decides our new birth is based on what all we had with us in our previous birth. So in the previous birth, it is our chitta. Chitta has the vrittis, the sanskaras, the karmic account, and the kleshas. So these together constitute the essential information which decides what kind of birth we will take in our next life, what will be the duration of that birth, and what will be our quality of life in that birth, what kind of experiences we will have, whether will we perform good deeds or bad deeds. So dear friends, this subtle body, if you want to go into a bit more of detail, is essentially made up of the buddhi, the ahankar, the manas, the jnanendriya, karmendriya, and the tanmatras. So all of them are subtle, and what is gross are the five gross elements, the panch mahabhutas. They are essentially the earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So these gross elements, they stay back, and rest, all the subtle elements, they travel. Yes, they travel from one body into another life, into another body. So now dear friends, this what the subtle body contains, this is what essentially causes one to change one's body and to receive a completely different body. So it is possible that in our next life we might be a human being, we might be a devta, we might have a body of a tiger, a body of an elephant, an ant, an insect, like a mosquito, or any other being. So this is a process by which the Prakriti configures the new body, and it does it in such a way that this Prakriti starts filling in the new form. And here one must understand, it is like pouring Prakriti literally pours itself into the new body and it fills up that new form. So supposing, say I am a human being in this life and I die and I become an elephant in the next life. So an elephant's body is far bigger than my current body. So this gap between the two bodies will be filled in by Prakriti herself. She will pour into this gap all that is required to form an elephant out of me. And this will happen in accordance as per the kleshas, the sanskaras, which are embedded already in the chitta in my old form. So as we had seen that chitta is the collection of the buddhi, the ahankar and the manas, and this contains information about the new birth, and therefore the new birth is based exactly on this. Now it shows up as kleshas, as sanskaras, and these kleshas and sanskaras are embedded in the new chitta now. So what are these kleshas and what are these sanskaras? Kleshas essentially are the obstacles on the path of yoga. These obstacles on the path of yoga are there in an individual right from birth. A newborn baby is born with these kleshas, with these obstacles, and therefore all throughout his life he has to struggle. He faces sorrow because of these kleshas. These kleshas essentially are those sanskaras, those thoughts, those memories which are harmful to an individual, and they create the cycle of life for us. They create jivana for us. They keep on turning the incoming new knowledge into thoughts, into experiences, into memories, into sanskaras, into karmas, and these karmas then go into the world outside and they create action, and it is this action which further creates the next cycle of vrittis, sanskaras and karmas. So that is why it is called the vritti, sanskar, karma, jivan, chakram. It's a cycle in which we get trapped. So this cycle starts in the next life based on what we have done in our previous life, and therefore the blueprint of the next body is already embedded, is already stored in the previous chitta, in the previous body, as per all that sanskaras, kleshas, the karmas and the account which was there. And now this chitta is filled in, this chitta is materialized by the gross elements. So what are the gross elements? Gross elements here are the Panch Mahabhutas. These Panch Mahabhutas are Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu and Akash. So dear friends, when I leave my present body, I move into my next life. So I carry my chitta. My soul carries my chitta, and that chitta gets filled in by the Panch Mahabhutas in my new life, into my new body. So this filling in, this pouring in of matter into the new body, into the new life form is done by Prakriti. So there is this constant permanent recycling in Prakriti. What it means is, if you look at the whole creation in cosmic terms, as the whole cosmos, as the whole Brahman, you will find that the evolutes of Prakriti, what all has come out from the Mool Prakriti, from the unmanifest Prakriti, when the Purusha comes close to it, is nothing but evolutes of Prakriti, and they keep on evolving further, they keep on expanding further. So first of all, we have the Mahat, This Mahat at an individual level is called the Buddhi, and it is called the Mahat at the cosmic level. So this Mahat gives rise to the whole Brahman, the whole cosmos, and Buddhi gives rise to an individual and his individual's creation. So the first thing the Buddhi does is it manifests from itself Ahankara. Ahankara, dear friends, is Ahamkara. Ahamkara means I am the doer. So there is a doership which comes in, and this doership does not stop there. It goes further ahead and it creates the Tanmatras. Tanmatras are the subtle energies through which we sense. So these Tanmatras essentially are the subatomic level powers of sight, hearing, tasting, listening, feeling the heat on our, I would say, skin, and smelling. So these senses, they are actually energies which are activated by Ahankara at the subatomic level within us. Now, as you see, from nothing, the whole universe is flowing out. So there is definitely some depletion which is getting filled up. So who is doing that filling up? That filling up is being done by Prakriti herself, because Prakriti is not finite. Prakriti by herself, dear friends, is infinite. And just because Prakriti is infinite, it does not get depleted. So as we keep on expanding, as this creation keeps on getting expanded, it is Prakriti which keeps on filling in all that is needed. So from the Mahat, which is at a very cosmic level, which is the cosmic seed of creation, which is the first manifestation of cosmic intelligence, from that small intelligence comes out the individual intelligence, and then it rolls out. You have the Ahankara, you have the Mana, you have the senses of perception, the senses of action, the Tanmatras, and the Panch Mahabhutas. So this whole creation, dear friends, this massive cosmos, this virtually infinite Brahman is coming out from that Ahankara. So who is filling in that energy? Who is pouring in that energy? That all energy is being poured in by Prakriti. The Purusha, the soul, is not pouring in any energy, is not pouring in any matter, is simply a bystander. It is simply seeing, looking at the whole evolution of the creation, at the whole process of growth of the Mool Prakriti into the massive infinite Brahman. So dear friends, this is a very important point which we must understand. And here one can refer to an interesting story from Indian mythology. One can go to the legend which is referred to by Vijnana Bhikshu. Vijnana Bhikshu is one of the prominent commentators of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and here he talks about the story of Vamana. Vamana is a story from the Bhagavata Purana, and Vamana was an incarnation, an avatar of Vishnu, who appears as a small Brahmin boy in the court of Bali. Bali was the king of demons, the king of Rakshasas. And Bali had got into the habit of harassing, troubling the Devatas. And although Bali himself was a great worshipper, a great devotee of Vishnu, but he was born into a family of demons. And just because he was born into a family of demons, he had certain twist in his karma, and as a result of this kind of a birth, he used to act out of enmity with the Devatas, and this he was doing as per the dharma of his land. The Rakshasas, the demons, always fought with the Devatas. The Devatas were their sworn enemies. So Bali was also following the dharma of all the Rakshasas, the demons, and troubling and fighting with the Devatas. So as a devotee, as I told you, he was a devotee of Vishnu, and being a devotee of Vishnu, he was following the Vedic dharma of being respectful towards the Brahmana community. And when he was approached by Vamana, as the story goes, he was offered a boon of his choice. Vamana asked him that whatever land he could take by his 3 steps, he would like to take. Bali, who was the king of the whole universe, he had conquered the whole universe, so he was happy with this, and in fact he was eager to give him much more. He was wondering how could Vamana, a small Brahmin, be able to occupy a lot of space with 3 simple steps. But with his first step, Vamana covered the entire earth, and with his second, they say, he covered the whole universe. Now, dear friends, with no other place to keep his third step, Vamana accused Bali and said in a cheeky fashion to him that you have failed to keep your promise, because now I cannot keep my third foot anywhere. And if you are failing to keep your promise, then you are in an intolerable position, and you cannot call yourself a proud and a principled monarch. So here Bali immediately realized that he is no ordinary Brahmana. He realized that this person is probably a reincarnation of Vishnu himself. So he offered his head in a very humble way to Vamana. So now the point of this whole story is Vamana was actually small in size. So what caused him to go big, so big in size, that he was able to cover the earth in one step, the whole Brahman, the whole cosmos, the whole universe, so to say, in the second step. So here what it means is that it was Prakriti. It was Prakriti which filled up Vamana's form. It was Prakriti which filled up his body, which poured itself into Vamana, and his tiny form was then transformed into such an enormous form that it could cover the whole universe, dear friends, in one simple step. So Prakriti filled in the new, larger form from an earlier, old form, but a very small form. So dear friends, what it means is that the gross matter which we see is emanating from subtle matter, and it is filling up the whole universe. It is filling up the whole Brahman. Now this is a very, very important point. This is a critical point. What it means here is that when the Purusha and the Prakriti come together, when the Mahat is born, it is in the most subtlest state. It is virtually totally sattvic, and it is in a huge gigantic form. So it is subtle, extremely subtle. Now out of this extremely subtle Mahat, as it keeps on evolving, as we reach the Ahankara, as we reach the Tanmatras, and as we go further and reach the Panch Mahabhut, we find that we have a very gross cosmos, a cosmos full of trillions of galaxies, zillions of stars, planets, moons, and ever expanding, virtually covering infinite space. So what it means is, out of the whole subtle, the whole sattvic, the whole, I would say, virtually invisible, gigantic, cosmic mind, the Mahat, the whole physical universe came. So what was subtle became gross, and it became so gross, so intensely gross, so infinitely gross, heavy, full of form, that we have this Brahman, we have this huge infinite universe, cosmos now with us. So dear friends, what it means is, it is the formless which turns into the form. Though the formless may look formless, but it has the intense presence of Prakriti, and this fills up the entire massive presence of gross matter. So the entire physical universe is coming out of the mental presence of the Mahat, the Buddhi, the Ahankar and the Manas, and the entire mental elements are coming from the infinite spiritual elements of the Purusha and the Prakriti. So dear friends, this is how Prakriti has an impact on its effects. It fills them up. It fills up the body. It creates the matter. So matter comes from mind. Mind comes from virtually nowhere. Mind comes from a combination of consciousness and a combination of inert presence of unmanifest Prakriti. So this is the most interesting part. From the spirit comes the mind, and from the mind comes matter. This is the way the yoga philosophy looks at it. This is the way the Sankhya Darshan propounded by Kapila Muni, dear friends, looks at it. So this is a very interesting proposition. So Patanjali, if I may read out from Edwin Bryant's commentary on this, he says is that changes in bodily forms takes place in other births, and it takes place because those bodies get filled in by Prakriti. So what it means is that my chitta, which I bring from my previous life, gets filled in by Prakriti with the gross elements. So similarly, this whole cosmos, which has come out of the Mahat, gets filled in by the gross elements, and we have a huge physical cosmos. Now in the third sutra of the same fourth chapter, he says that the instrumental cause of all that is there is not the original creative cause, but it is like piercing the creation, like a farmer pierces the barriers between his fields. So this is important to understand. Let's say a farmer has two fields. One field is full of water and the other field is without water, it is dry. Now if the other field has to be irrigated, if the other field has to be grown, then the farmer will cut away the barrier between the two fields and allow the water to flow out from one of the fields to the other field. Similarly is the matter with nature, with the matter with Prakriti. This is how Prakriti functions. Prakriti is present and Prakriti is doing its job. The Prakriti has its three gunas, and we know that this Prakriti, this evolution in Prakriti is happening because of the disbalance in the three gunas. So when Prakriti is in equilibrium, when Prakriti is in the silence mode, when the Purusha is away, then the Prakriti has the three gunas in balance. But when the Purusha comes closer, and that is when the Prakriti gets activated with a Rajasic surge, and that is when the Sattvic expansion takes place, and that is how the whole creation starts, and that is the origin of this manifested cosmos. So what Patanjali is saying is that we are not talking about that original cause. What we are saying is that this creation is happening because Prakriti is flowing in from where it is already present to where it is not present. And it is this flow of Prakriti from where it is already present to where it is not present that is filling in the body, that is giving matter, that is giving the five gross elements to the new space, to the new area, and that is how it all gets filled up. So Patanjali here has given an analogy, and he has used the creativity of the act of a farmer, and he says that when a farmer wants to irrigate a field which is at a lower level or at an equal level in an adjacent field, and this adjacent field is already full with water, then Vyasa, one of the prominent commentators, says he will not personally carry the water from one field to the other, and he will not carry it with his hands, but he will merely remove the barrier or the dam which is present between the two fields. So once when he does that, then water can spontaneously drain out, move out, shift out from a field that is already irrigated to a field which is still barren and needs to be irrigated. So he says one must understand that the farmer is not personally inserting water into the roots of the grain. He merely removes the weeds from the environs that impede the natural tendency of water to flow downward. And when that water then penetrates the roots by itself, then Prakriti has moved in and Prakriti has filled up that place. So dear friends, what it means is, say if you want to have some manifestation in your life, say if you want to reach out to 10,000 people in your life, but you are attempting and have reached out to only 10 people, then what do? You cannot create the balance 9,990 people. But those people who are already there on the planet, you can approach them and they can listen to you. So you need to figure out what is the barrier between where you are and between where those people are, and how can they be brought over from where they are to where you are. And if you can figure it out, and if you can break this barrier, then those people, 9,990 of them, they will move from where they are to where they would want to be. So just because the water has a natural tendency to flow from a higher level to a lower level, similarly people have a natural tendency to acquire more and more. So if wherever they are and whatever they are getting, if you can communicate to them and if you can offer them something which is far, far better, which is good enough for them to shift, then they will shift. Then that water will shift to your field automatically. So this is the barrier which Patanjali is talking about. He is talking about a big secret of manifestation, And once, dear friends, when we understand this big secret of manifestation, then absolute wonders happen in our life. We just need to know where is the field which is filled up with water, and where is my field which is empty of water, and what is the barrier between the two, and how do I remove that barrier, how do I break that dam so that people move in, so that water moves in from where it is already full to my field where the water is not there. So dear friends, this is a very important sutra. So what he says is, there is no instrumental cause for you to get your portion of Prakriti. There is no creative cause. But all one needs to do is to remove barriers. And it is only when you remove barriers that you are able to control the movement of Prakriti. But dear friends, there is, as the commentators have pointed out, there is an instrumental cause also that can control the movement of Prakriti, and such an instrumental cause is Ishvara. Ishvara is the instrumental cause in activating Prakriti, and this, once if we understand, then we can do magic in our lives. So let's take an example of a pot, of a potter. So like the potter, the Ishvara is in conjunction with other instrumental causes. The other causes which can cause the pot to be created are the idea of the pot, the clay, the water, and the potter's wheel. They are all needed, but without the potter being there, without him being the cause, the pot cannot be created. Therefore, it is important to know, it is ultimately the Ishvara who is the potter here. It is ultimately the Ishvara who removes the obstacles in Prakriti, and he removes it in such a way that dharma and adharma may generate their respective fruits. So Ishvara is the ultimate overseer who ensures that all deeds are connected to their appropriate fruits. So whatever action you do, you will be having a consequence of that corresponding result. So if you are doing good acts, if you are doing dharmic acts, you will be having deeds which will create punya for you. And if you are doing non-good acts, then you will be having adharma functioning in you, and this will give you painful results. So dear friends, one must understand that the whole creation, the initial activation of Prakriti from its original state, latent state, equilibrium state, has been accepted universally in the Hindu line of thought as a cyclical process. It is believed that the universes, they keep on emanating from their source, and once they are emanating, then they also dissolve back at the end of each cycle and before a new cycle gets activated. So this is a never-ending process, and this is an anadi process. It is beginningless. It has been there for immeasurable amount of time. So in the Indian line of thought, we do not believe in a Big Bang, but it is said that there was something which happened in Prakriti which triggered the whole process. It is believed it is talking about the presence of Purusha, and which causes this whole process to begin. But in any event, the main point here is that once Prakriti has been activated by the instrumental causes, then Prakriti has its own inherent qualities which makes it flow in accordance with the channels of human activity, with the dharma and the adharma which we do in our actions, in our karma. This can be understood as the water's own qualities make it flow to a lower place from a higher place if there are no obstacles on the path, if the obstacles have been removed. So dear friends, it's a very interesting two sutras. I learned a bit while going through it, got a few insights. So broadly speaking, nature flows on its own. Once it has been started, the cycle has been started, then there is no instrumental cause, then it merely keeps on flowing as per its own qualities. It flows from a higher level to a lower level and all is fine. Okay. So thank you, dear friends. Thank you for being here, listening to this talk. We are doing these series of talks so that you can appreciate and understand the Yoga Sutras, and you are able to gain by this knowledge how to achieve permanent happiness in your own human life, and how you can impart it to your family members, to the members of your society, to the people of this country at large, and to the people of this world. So once we do that, then we can give a happy planet to our children and the forthcoming generations, and we can trigger a lot of civilizational changes on this planet. I thank you once again for being here. Hope to see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock for tomorrow's talk. We will be continuing with our talk on Patanjali Yoga Sutras, especially on the chapter of Kevalya Mukti, and we will see more in detail tomorrow about a yogi's ability to control multiple minds at the same point in time. He is able to do that with his own ego power. So we will see that in detail, understand it, and I'm sure it will be a very learning experience for all of you. So thank you, dear friends, once again. Thank you for being here. God bless each one of you. See you tomorrow at 7 p.m.